I had a coworker who I've known for quite a long time and who I've done work for before reach out to me and ask me to look at their lawn boy mower. They said they had an issue with the self-propel not working, but when I asked them about the details about what happened, it really didn't make that much sense to me. But then again, the machine will tell me what's going on if the owner can't. Hopefully I can get it working again because it's definitely running on borrowed time. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Lawn Boy branded mower, and the problem is that the self-propel suddenly stopped working. Like I said, the details are a bit blurry, but that's okay. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you might have seen this mower on here at least once before, but this is the first time it's had a self-propel issue. And from the description of how it stopped working, I'm pretty sure I know what's wrong with it. But of course, that's based on how my coworker described the problem. Now, the facts may add up to a different value, as you'll see here in a bit. Now, I'm going to try and repair this mower, but yours might be a little different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it. I'll be glad to answer your questions. Now, to be quite honest, I really like this particular mowing deck with its rear-wheel drive and also the type of self-propel it has. Now, the reason why is because I think it's a pretty good homage to the personal pace system found on most Toro branded lawnmowers. Now, this one, however, is trademarked as the Sense-A-Speed system, which in my mind, there's really no difference except in the details. Now, there's nothing wrong with a different brand of mousetrap that happens to look pretty much like the original one, just so long as a certain percentage of it is different, and this one has done a pretty good job of doing just that. Now, at this point, I want to just start the engine and try using the self-propel and seeing the problem for myself. Who knows, it might just work, and for some reason, when they were trying to use it, it just wasn't cooperating that day. Hopefully it works, but I'm not holding my breath. Well, just like they said, nothing's happening, so I guess they weren't imagining it. At least the engine sounds the same as the last time I worked on it. Now, before we get too far into the project, I do want to get our initial pull test done, otherwise I'll forget to do it and I won't have enough data to make a good point about it. So on our first pull, we got a reading of 3.44 kilograms, which is much too high for a mower with this type of self-propel. Now, I don't recall the last time I serviced the wheels, so we might be overdue. The weirdest part is that on our second pull, we got a much better reading of 2.54 kilograms. That's the widest spread between readings I've ever gotten, and I think I know why. Now, since the system closely mimics the personal pace system, the drive gears have a ratcheting mechanism, and if it's not serviced once in a while, it could cause the wheels to spin easily at one moment and then for no reason become a lot more difficult. Now, the front wheels, which are not driven, seem to be just fine, so they'll be easier to deal with. Unfortunately, I soon got distracted by all this tape that's covering the holes in the mowing deck. Now, the last time I saw this mower, it had a few holes in it, but that was some time ago, and this tape is not the same from the last time I saw it, so I've got to wonder if it's gotten any worse. So at first, it didn't look too bad, but I had to give it a few wipes with my brush, and that's when I realized just how bad it had gotten. This was now 10 times worse than the last time I saw it, and at this point I knew it was only a matter of time before these holes were going to come together into one large hole and no amount of tape was going to save it. I then made contact with my coworker and asked them about the mowing deck. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail about the plans we made, but I will say that I'm going to try and do something about this damage. Here's the problem. I can't show you, at least right now, how I'm going to fix it. The reason is monkey see, monkey do. If you see how I'm going to fix it, you might be tempted to do the same thing, and to be quite honest, I don't want you to do what I'm about to do. I will tell you one thing though, the end result really surprised me, and even my coworker absolutely loved how it looked, and there's a good chance the fix is going to outlast the rest of the mower. Now, I do apologize that I'm going to tease you with a repair that I can't show you, but I thought it was important to at least tell you about it because it's going to be in a couple of the shots later on, and without some explanation, it wouldn't make any sense. After getting the left drive wheel off the mower, you can see the drive gear, and if I give it a spin, you can certainly tell that it's seen better days. Now, you can try and spray lube around the gear, hoping that it gets to the ratcheting mechanism, but on this design, you also have an access hole. All you have to do is clear the opening using whatever you have that might fit and then spray in your favorite lube. I'm using lithium grease, but it's your choice to use whatever you have on hand. After that, rotate the gear a few times and clean off any excess lube. Once that's done, I'll give it a few turns, and now it's not making any of those squeaking noises like it was before. Now, earlier I wasn't able to get to all of the rust, but with the left wheel out of the way, I'll finish removing some of the rust and then finish it by removing any loose paint. After that's done, I'll then remove the bolt from the wheel, clean off any rust or dirt, and then apply more lithium grease on it. Like I said earlier, you don't need to use the same kind of lube I'm using, just use whatever you have on hand. After that, reinstall the wheel and hopefully with all the cleaning and lubricating, it'll spin a whole lot better. Now you don't have to do this kind of cleaning and lubricating very often, but once a year is a very convenient schedule, probably the same time when you do your yearly oil change. After getting the wheel back on, it's now spinning a whole lot better without all the noise it was making before. This should also make it much easier to use the mower, which is always a plus. While I'm on this side of the mower, I want to take a closer look at the handlebar release. Its job is to not only release the handlebar, but it's also supposed to keep it in position. This one though is acting a bit off. Now there seems to be quite a bit of play in the lever, so I'm going to try and figure out why. I think if we take off this cover, we'll be able to do two things though. The first thing is to look and see how the lever works, and we should also be able to see if the drive belt is either broken or just off the pulley on the transmission. Unfortunately, my coworker is the industrious type, so not having a working self-propel didn't stop them from mowing the yard with it only a few days ago. After getting the cover off the mower, we can see that the release lever works a rod to disengage the lock on the other side as well as this side. That's where we find a spring that's helping to keep the rod in a certain position, but it looks like the spring is not damaged. However, after 20 years, it might be a bit tired. But after looking at it for a while, I think the point of engagement with this end of the rod has finally worn itself out. Unfortunately, I just can't tighten the bolt anymore because this part is cast, and if I put more force on it to hold the rod, it might break. And since this lever is not produced anymore, if I have to replace it, it will be expensive. Now the most likely reason for the self-propel to stop working is either the cable is broken or the belt is broken, and it's pretty obvious that the belt is still on the pulley for the transmission. Which is great because while the belt is on there, we can try and activate the drive and see if the belt becomes tight. After pushing on the handlebar to activate the drive system, you can see that the belt goes from being loose to being tight. So I'm fairly certain that the belt is not broken, but we also need to confirm if the belt is still on the pulley under the engine. Now I know it's hard to see with the guard in the way, but the belt is still on the pulley under the engine. So the good news is that the 20-year-old belt is still intact, but the bad news is that it probably means we have a cable issue. Now while I'm here, I'm also going to remove the blade so that I can sharpen it. I did ask them what kind of maintenance they've done to it this year, and they said they replaced the air filter and changed the oil, but did not touch the blade, so I'll do that for them. And with the blade out of the way, we can now definitely confirm that the belt is not broken and it is on the other pulley. Now the viewers have asked to see how I sharpen a mower blade, but to be honest, all you need is an angle grinder. But if you don't have one, watching me use one isn't going to help you unless you get an angle grinder. Now you can use a file if you really wanted to, but I find that it's much more dangerous than using the grinder. Now that we've done the other wheel, this should be a whole lot faster considering we already know what to do. Now if for some reason the drive gear is stuck and won't turn, what I would do is take the retaining clip off the end of the axle, followed by the washer, and then try to pull the gear off the axle. Just be careful because you're going to find a small key and possibly a spring, so be prepared, otherwise you might lose them. After that, it should be pretty easy to do an extensive cleaning and lubrication with some sort of light oil, grease, or anything you choose to use. I do want to warn you that once you start this process that you'll need to keep it up because the oil or grease you apply will start to attract dirt and will cause it to need cleaning again. I guess if you really wanted to, you could just clean the bolt and the opening in the wheel with brake cleaner and not use any lube at all. It is your mower, so do what you want with it. Now to be quite honest, if you don't want to bother doing anything at all with your wheels, then be my guest. This is my recommendation followed by some opinions, and the best part is some data from using the pull meter, but then again, if it doesn't matter to you, I completely understand why. Now when we did the last pull test, we were able to get a really wide range in readings, mainly due to the axles needing cleaning, but the best reading was about 2.9 kilograms, which is just a bit outside of the expected range I was hoping for. However, after the cleaning and lubrication, we're now able to get not only a better reading in the 2.2 kilogram range, but the readings are now much more consistent, which should make this mower a lot easier to push and be less stressful on you when you use it. So that's great and all, but what about the self-propel? Well, I'm glad you asked because that brings us to the cable, and this is when I forgot what happened to this mower several years ago. What had happened was the end of the cable had broken, and because at that time money was kind of tight for them, I told them that I would just use some wire to fix it. Well, it looks like the wire might have given way at some point while they were transporting it, and that put too much slack in the cable. Now the proper fix for this would be to replace the cable with a new one, but after talking to them, they said they didn't mind keeping the wire fixed. Now I did tell them that it might happen again, and they said that now that they know what to look for, they can deal with it. So they were okay with it. I told them that the cable wasn't all that expensive, but they said with the holes in the mowing deck and the fact that the mower itself was almost old enough to purchase alcohol, they didn't want to spend any money on it. So I told them that I understood their situation and that I'll redo the wire and that should fix the issue. Now I know some of the viewers out there are not going to agree with this fix, and to be quite frank, I understand, but with the economy the way that it is, money doesn't grow on trees, and watching every penny being spent is a good way to make sure that you have some to live on when you get to retirement age. With the end of the cable fixed, the only thing left to do is to replace the air filter, which I took off to get more clearance while I was sanding, and to start the mower and test out the self-propel. Hopefully I didn't just waste all my time, but I do think I was correct with my diagnosis, but I guess crossing my fingers wouldn't hurt either. So it seems that cheap repair worked. In fact, it may have worked a little too well. There's almost too much tension on the drive cable now, and when pulling the mower backwards, you have to ever so slightly fight against the drive system. Now to reduce the tension on the belt, I'm going to adjust the drive cable's anchor. Yes, I could have put more tension on the cable without redoing the wire, but that wire had been on there for a really long time, and I wanted to do a better job this time. And yes, I think the better idea would have been to replace the cable as well, but since this mower is not mine, I need to listen to the owner. Now, if this had been a reason that dealt with their safety, I would have put my foot down. That's the reason why I'm trying to fix the rotting deck situation. Now, if there were more holes in this deck in other locations, then I would have just told them that it's too far gone to fix, but since the damage is in just one rather large area, I think I can do something about it. Now, I don't want to leave you completely in the dark, so I'm going to give you some possible ways that I could fix this deck. So here are the options in no particular order: welding a metal plate in each and every opening, using JB Weld to patch the holes, using fiberglass, using carbon fiber, or welding a section from another donor deck over the entire area. Now there is one other option, and that is I'm just trolling you and making you think that I'm prepping the surface for some awesome repair, when in fact I'm just going to move this engine over to a different mowing deck. Now I've just given you a lot of choices, and none of them are really any better than the other one, but just enough information to mess with you girls and guys. Sorry for being so mysterious, but sometimes being pretty transparent gets kind of boring. Don't worry, if this mower comes back for any reason, I will show you what I did to it, and maybe by then you'll get the joke, but right now I'm enjoying this game just a little bit too much. So my question is, would you have insisted to the owner of this mower to get the new cable instead of redoing a redneck fix? Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.